Can you guys see my screen? I think I have to present. Yeah. So I assume that you guys would have been coming in like when at the beginning, so there would have been time. But if you want, you can still drop into the chat your favorite ice cream flavor. And I need to prove to a friend that mint ice cream does not taste like toothpaste. Okay, so agenda for the class. So we're gonna first start with introductions, and then we're gonna have a warm-up game, and it's gonna be an identification run, and then a lecture about how we classify fossils, and then a Kahoot at the end. So first, introductions. Hi, my name's Emily, like the other Emily, and my Discord, if you find me on the server, is MX, and then my tag is 2161. Join the Discord, the link's already in the chat. I'm a sophomore from Maryland. Yes, there is a Science Olympiad event called Fossils. I spent a painful amount of time this year doing my fossils binder, and I did not want that to go to waste. So that's why I'm here teaching this class. And I am a K-pop fan, so talk to me about webtoons and K-pop. I also read a lot of webtoons, and my favorite dinosaur is the Patagonia, which if you read my bio on the Sage website, you would have said that. And this picture right here is also of that. So put into the chat now your name, grade, location, and favorite dinosaur, but I realized that I already see all of your names, so I guess just put into the chat your favorite dinosaur. I also realized I cannot see the chat right now, so I'm definitely a boomer to Zoom. Oh, okay, I can actually see the chat now. Wow, this is very great. Sorry guys, I'm very not tech savvy. Oh, I'm glad you love fossils. Okay. Chocolate. Okay, we have some chocolate ice cream. Okay. Caitlin, I'm sorry. It doesn't taste like toothpaste. Sorry, I'm seeing these just now. I go to Centennial High School. It's in the middle of nowhere. Ooh, we have Velociraptors lovers. And whoa, okay. We have some really interesting, what's it called? A very interesting range of fossils. Whoa, I've actually never heard of the Pinosaur, so that's really cool. Okay, wait, this is just like an intermission question. What do you guys see right now on my screen? Like, do you see one tab and I'm not presenting? Or do you just see the slide? So you guys don't see like tabs and bookmarks? Okay, that's good to hear then. Wait, okay. Okay.
So you're like doing the slide, but you're like not presenting. So we can see the slide, but you're not like, yeah, right now you're presenting. So that's good.
Wait, okay. Okay, I was gonna go off of my speaker notes, but I realized that I can't share my screen without you guys also seeing the speaker notes. So, okay. Okay, anyway, moving on. I will figure that out as I go. Okay, so we're gonna start with our ID game. So ID stands for identification. I'm gonna be using this a lot because ID is shorter than identification. So I'm gonna show you guys a fossil and you guys are gonna try to guess what it is. And Google is allowed because obviously it's the first time, but at the end of the classes, I will be expecting you guys to be able to just know it off the top of your head, which you guys will be able to do. So, and if no one gets the fossil after an awkward amount of time, then we just move on. So for every correct guess, the winner gets 1 point. So you have to be the first one to get it. then the winner will be excused from the non-mandatory optional homework that I really can't make you do anyway, because, yeah. So, very incentivizing. This is true, Jonathan. Okay, so, are you guys ready? I'm gonna go to the fossil in 3, 2, oh, Rebecca says no. I guess what? 1. Okay, wait, I need to click it. Okay, there we go. What is this, guys? Very hard. Okay, Jonathan got it first. So, Jonathan, you get 1 point. But everyone else, good job. Proud of you guys. Okay, it gets harder. Okay. So yes, it was the Tyrannosaurus Rex, a very notorious fossil that pretty much everybody knows about. Okay, now, next fossil. Yeah, Andy, it's fine. Abbreviations are good. Do whatever it takes to win. Okay, now the next fossil in 3, 2, 1. So this one is a bit harder. No, it's not plantain. Okay, Caitlin. Okay, that's very okay. I'm impressed. Yes, it is ginkgo. So, Caitlin, you get 1 point. And Jonathan, my partner, always mistakes those plants for platinus plants. So, Angelina, I think you were a little bit later than Caitlin this time, but you still got it right. So just keep an eye out for this one. I believe in you. You can get it. Okay. The next fossil in 3, 2, 1. And your hint is this is exactly what it looks like. Okay, Caitlin got that one right too. So yes, it is poop. Although snake is a good guess, I can definitely see how you got snake. Okay, so we actually have a specific name for fossilized poop, and it's called coprolite, but it is poop, yes. Okay, so good job. So currently the leaderboard, we have Caitlin with 2 points and then Jonathan with 1 point. So the next fossil in 3, 2, 1. This one, okay. Oh, you dug one of these up in Animal Crossing. Okay, so technically the first one who got it right was Rose, because I wasn't looking for amber or bug, I was looking for insect in amber. But I think that was kind of hard to guess. So everyone who, okay, I'm just gonna give everyone who answered either amber or bug or both a point this round. Oh, you're trying to identify the bug. Okay, that's very ambitious. Good job, Caitlin. Okay. But everybody who answered bug, amber, or amber and bug gets a point. But good job to Rose for technically being the first one to answer the answer I was looking for. So we have a bunch of people tied for 1 right now, and then Jonathan with 2, I think, and then Caitlin with 3. So our next fossil is in 3, 2, 1. So, oh, okay, eggs is a good guess, but it is not eggs. Michigan stone is also a very good guess, but it's not Michigan stone. It's not oyster, it's not turtle. Okay, I think you guys are gonna have to get this one using Google because it is like not that common. So how I would go about trying to Google this, it is in the fossil set. Okay, I can already tell that Jonathan is our resident fossil silo-y person. Okay, but okay, good job, David. So David direct messaged me Petoskey stone first, or is it called Petoskey stone? I think it's this. But Hey,
How are we supposed to know that?
this is a good question, but this is just a practice round. And it'll also get you guys in the mindset of how to Google fossils. And I'm going to go through all of these fossils. William is not amused with me right now. But yes, it is Petoskey stone. And so David gets a point. Yes, you do search up common stone fossil in Michigan. This is very true. And so Petoskey stones are actually made up of corals. And yeah, it's fine. I also Googled this the first time I saw it. I was like, what? Okay. But Petoskey stone are fossils of genus Hexagonaria, which are actually corals. So those of you guys who answered coral at the beginning, good job. William is very not amused with me right now. Okay, so now that we've gone through this ID game that was fun for some, but not for William, what in the world is a fossil? So a fossil is basically anything that tells us about an organism of the past. Oh wait, yeah, forgot to say, congratulations to Caitlin, you are excused from the optional homework. Congratulations. Yes, Angelina, that is exactly right. It tells us about an organism of the past. Yes, Rose, your definition is right too. It is a petrified organism, and there's a lot of different fossils. So they can be bones, which are the ones that you probably have heard of the most. Shells, also really common. Imprints, poop, as you saw, strands of DNA, footprints, etc. And the fossils that I just showed you were really important ones that we'll look at more in the future, and they have a lot of historical significance. So I hope you remember them because they're also going to come up on our Kahoot. I need to get on Animal Crossing. There's so much stuff on Animal Crossing. Yeah. So in the next few weeks, we're going to be exploring fossils, how they form, and their history. So just some general rule-keeping things that I need to go over. I don't mind using the chat to talk at all, as you guys have been doing. I think that's fine. I think it's great you're interacting. Just make sure nothing crazy happens. We do need to keep this very school of curfew. And so ask questions. I'd much rather you unmute or type a question than spend the entire session confused. And you can also direct message me questions if you're not sure about anything and don't want to ask the whole entire class. And cameras are appreciated, but I don't care that much. If you do turn it on, please have a fossils background, as I do. But Angelina, I also very like your I really like your background, so if you don't want to change it, it's fine. But I thought this would just be something fun. And then so Kahoot names can be whatever you want them to be, but again, nothing absolutely crazy. So to change background, I figured out oops, I did not mean to click that. I figured out how to change my background like 5 minutes before class. So at the end, if you do want to change your background, I can show you how to do it. You're good. We just went over an ID game. So we're gonna actually start class now. So our class overview is week 1 and 2. We're gonna be having an introduction to paleontology lecture, which is coming up. And then week 2, we're gonna be doing fossil formation. Weeks 3 and 4, we're gonna be talking about different fossils throughout geologic time. So the background you see right now is actually a time period called the Silurian, which you will also learn about in weeks 3 and 4. And then week 5, I don't know why it says weeks 5, I need to change that. We're gonna be looking at Lagerstatten, which are actually fossil sites. So there are a lot of fossils concentrated in certain areas of the world, and they conjugate in these sites called Lagerstatten. And then Bone Wars, which is a really interesting fight between two paleontologists that really led society to be interested in fossils. And we're also going to be looking at fossils in the media. So is it actually possible to do what scientists did in Jurassic Park and take the DNA out of preserved dinosaur DNA in amber and turn it into a real-life dinosaur. And then week 6, we're gonna just be doing identification and review. So this is where my Zoom abilities are at a minimum, and I'm probably gonna have to keep you guys in the tab mode because I have speaker notes that I don't know how to look at. But so the thing you see on the left is a megalodon tooth. And I'm sure you guys have all heard of megalodon sharks. They're like really big, scary creatures that we're all afraid of. And so we're gonna be going through each thing that we classify fossils with and also relating it to the fossil that you see on the left. So do you guys still see the megalodon tooth thing? All right, that's really good to hear. So megalodons do not eat humans. Sharks don't actually like to eat humans that much. I also love megalodons. It's such a cool fossil to look at. So, okay, so this is actually really interesting. I'm just gonna go on a tangent. So we're actually afraid of sharks because there's a lot of like movies and lots of like things online that tell us like sharks eat humans, but they actually don't. They're not interested in humans at all. And Jaws is like a really big movie that caused people to be scared of sharks. Sorry guys, I needed to get some water. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the 4 main types of fossils. So the first fossil you see on the top left corner of my little image here are mold fossils. So mold fossils is a fossilized imprint made in the substrate. Oh, I'm also not going to be looking at the chat as much now that I'm in the lecture mode, but do feel free to make any comments. I love reading them, even if it's like 20 minutes late. So again, the substrate that a mold fossil usually makes an imprint in is either rock or sediment, and common mold fossils include leaves, bug molds, exoskeletons. External molds are imprints of organisms implanted in rocks, so that would be the leaves that you see. And then, sorry, I'm dying. Okay, it's all good now. Okay, internal molds are happens when sediment filled the shells of a deceased organism, such as a clam or a snail. Thank you, Sherry, for the bless you. Okay, these remain after the organisms remain decomposed to show the internal features of the organism. Now, the second type of fossils are cast fossils, and they are like mold fossils in that they are formed, at least in part, with an imprint made in a rock or sediment. But cast fossils actually take it one step further, and once the mold forms, they are subsequently filled in with minerals that later harden to form rock. So mold fossils take up negative space, while cast fossils take up positive space. So another way to think of it is that mold fossils are like a mold, and then once rock actually fills in the mold, it becomes a cast fossil. And common types also include leaves, embryos, which are like miniature versions of animals, and also skin. So now, my favorite type of fossil is traced fossils, and they're also called ichnofossils, and they don't contain information about the organism itself, but rather information on how they lived. So, for example, burrows, where they lived, nests, footprints. Footprints are a great way to show how they walked. Fossilized poop, as you saw, and also teeth marks and predation marks. They're the most common type of fossil, and sorry, I've been talking for a long time. Okay. They can also sometimes offer more information about the organism and how it lived than the actual fossilized body parts can. So they're really valuable. And then true form fossils, or authentic actual body fossils, are body parts of an actual organism that's been replaced by minerals. So earlier someone said that a fossil is a petrified organism. That would be a true form fossil. And so common examples include teeth and bones and skeletons. And unlike molds and casts, they're not formed using an impression, but rather the part of an organism that is displaced by minerals, again, which is the process of petrification that we will talk about more next week. So, do you guys see the next slide? A time here. Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm definitely a Zoom grandma, but okay. The next method that we use to classify fossils and organisms is its time period. So where in the history of the Earth does this fossil actually belong, and how old is it? So we're going to be looking at this more in depth when we actually get to the geologic time classes, but fossils can also be classified using time periods. So we actually have a really intricate system of measuring time. So first, the largest section of time is an eon. So we've actually been through 4 eons. So the first eon is the Hadean eon, and it's basically the eon where no life existed at all. So just imagine like a black void that was Earth. That's the Hadean eon, and I think that's been the longest eon in history, but don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. And okay, so the next eon would be the Archean eon. And during this time, stromatolites, which are actually bacteria that can perform photosynthesis as a plant can, they started to emerge, and they started to give rise to oxygen in our atmosphere. And this oxygen gave rise to more life, and that led to the Proterozoic, when the first animals started emerging. And then from then, we've been in the Phanerozoic eon. Also, I forgot to say this earlier, but this lecture is going to be really content heavy, but it's not going to be on the slide that much. So if you want to like take notes or look at the slides yourself and follow along. Wait, okay, let's keep the chat friendly if we can. Or else I'm gonna have to disable the chat. I don't know what's happening right now, but I trust you guys to be friendly. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it open for a bit for now, but if it gets worse, I'll disable the chat because I don't want anyone calling anyone else any names, but just, I trust you guys to keep it friendly. So in the Phanerozoic eon, it's the eon we're in right now, it's the 4th one, so just a quick recap. The first is the Hadean, and then Archean, and then Proterozoic, and then Phanerozoic. And so in the Phanerozoic eon, there's been 3 eras, the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic. And we're not going to look at those in too much in depth right now because we're going to be looking at them later. And I actually forgot to mention this in the previous slide, but obviously the megalodon tooth is an actual true form fossil because it's an actual part of the body of the megalodon shark. And so if we look at the fossil right now and we want to classify it based on its time period, we actually find that megalodons were only alive during the late Oligocene to the late Pliocene. So that's they are epochs in the Cenozoic era. So we're going to get more in depth with how we classify time later on, but the general rundown would be eon, that's the main thing. And then we have the Paleozoic era, and then the periods of the Paleozoic, and then we have the Mesozoic and the periods of the Mesozoic, and then we have the Cenozoic, which is split into periods, and then those periods are split further into epochs, and there's a lot of them, and we'll go over them in a later class. So moving on, we have taxonomy. So taxonomy is basically how we classify life into names. So as you guys probably know, we are species Homo sapien, and so the way we classify species is we name it using its scientific species name, and then we put the genus name in front. Oh, Eleanor, okay. Don't worry about that right now, but we're gonna go over it later. Eleanor asked, I still don't get when these sharks were alive. So they were alive. Just remember that they were alive in the Cenozoic period. So if we find a fossil of the megalodon, we know that it's from the Cenozoic because that's the only time that they actually lived. So the only time that they could have produced fossils. So looking at taxonomy, it's how we classify life scientifically. So the highest level of taxonomy is domains. And so there are 3 domains: archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. So the important thing to remember is that eukarya means that the cells are eukaryotic, so there are organelles, and organelles just means that there's a cell membrane surrounding each of the compartments that help us function as we do. So in this kingdom eukarya, in this domain eukarya, there's 4 separate kingdoms. And so there's the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the fungi kingdom, and the protist kingdom. And so protists, if you guys are wondering, are basically everything that's not animals, plants, and fungi. So protists are a really unique kingdom that's classified more about what it's not than what it actually is, if that makes sense. And then so from kingdoms, we go to phylums, which are more specific. And then from phylum, we have class, we have order, family, and then genus, and then finally species. So I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but we name species using binomial nomenclature. So that means that we add the genus of the species as the first word, and then the second word is the actual species name. And so that would be the scientific name of a species. So looking at the megalodon, so we have domain, eukarya. Can anyone tell me what the kingdom of a megalodon would be?
Animal kingdom?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, it's kingdom Animalia. And then so it's phylum Chordata. So Chordata is actually all vertebrae, which includes humans, and it also includes things like turtles, and it's basically just any animal that has vaguely a backbone in their body. So the class of a megalodon is chondrites. I think that's how you pronounce it. But so everything in the class of a megalodon has a cartilage backbone. So their skeleton is actually made out of cartilage. And then their order is a really fancy word. It's called lamniformes. And then their family has actually not been classified because they've been put into multiple genuses. And their genus would be Carchocals. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. And then their species would be that plus megalodon. And that's the classification of a megalodon according to taxonomy. So someone asked, what is cartilage? So cartilage is basically a more flexible version of the material we find in our bones. So it's easier to bite into, and it provides more agility. Yes, the different lineage of all sharks and the sharks has been debated. So some people actually put this into genus Otodus, which is another genus that you could classify the megalodon into. But for the sake of Science Olympiad fossils list, we are going to put this not in that genus. And yeah, it's also the stuff in our ears and noses. So, oh, I can enlarge this. Okay, this is cool. So distribution is another way that we classify fossils, and it's where fossils are found all over the world. So for example, if I had a fossil from a species that only lived in Africa, if I found a fossil of that in North America, I'd still know that it would be in a place that was originally Africa. So some important things to take note of, a cosmopolitan distribution means that a fossil is found in every single appropriate habitat, no matter where it is in the world. And so, okay, someone said you can go into present mode instead of enlarging. I can't move around if I'm in present mode, and I kind of need speaker notes. So I'm still very new to Zoom, but I will get that figured out by next class. So the distribution of a megalodon is worldwide. So they're found everywhere. They've had their teeth found in the deepest part of the ocean, and they would have what we call a cosmopolitan distribution. And yes, they swim. So that actually brings us to our next topic or classification, which is mode of life. So mode of life is basically how an organism actually lives, how they move. And so different animals have different modes of life, and the vast majority of modes of life are animals that live in the ocean, because most animals on land are motile, they can move. So the main modes of life are pelagic, which means free swimming. They can swim everywhere, which is what the megalodon would be. And then, so sessile means that an animal is rooted to the floor, and this includes crinoids, which we will look at later. And then amphibic lifestyle means that they live on the seafloor, so like crabs and lobsters. And then vagrant also means free swimming. It's the same as pelagic. And then motile is the opposite of sessile, so it can move around. It's anything that can move. So it encompasses the benthic lifestyle, pelagic lifestyle. And so planktonic lifestyle means that the animal doesn't actually swim, but instead floats along with the ocean current. So just imagine if you were in a swimming pool and your arms were spread out against the water, just floating everywhere, that would be planktonic. So adding on to mode of life, we also have feeding behavior. So different animals eat in different ways. And the most important different kinds of feeding that you're going to come across in these organisms are filter feeding, which means that these animals obtain their nutrients from particles suspended in the water. And animals that filter feed include sponges, clams, and ducks. And so deposit feeding means that the animal obtains nutrients from particles suspended in the soil. So this would include starfish and snails that feed using deposit feeding. Fluid feeding is obtaining nutrients by consuming the fluids of another organism. So like hummingbirds that feed off of nectar, and leeches. And yes, whales are actually filter feeders, I think. Wait, no, okay, ignore that. Whales are not filter feeders. They actually feed with another kind of feeding that I'm going to talk about in the next two modes of feeding. So another mode of feeding is bulk feeding. So bulk feeding means that
Is that where you eat like a bunch of stuff at a time?
Wait, sorry, William, what did you say? I think like your
Is that where like you eat like a bunch of stuff at a time?
Yes, that's exactly right. So bulk feeding is obtaining nutrients by eating all of another organisms. So lions bulk feed, they feed off of their prey, and we are actually bulk feeders as well. So, and then, yes, a python would also be another example. And then, so what Callie said about whales is actually another type of feeding called ram feeding, and it's really close to filter feeding. So ram feeding is ingesting prey via the fluids around it. So tunas, whale sharks all feed this way. This means that the water comes to their mouth and they just open their mouth and eat whatever is in it. So the different modes of life and feeding behavior of a megalodon would be they are pelagic, so they can swim wherever, and then they are actually predators, and so they bulk feed. And so there is a slight difference between filter feeding and ram feeding. Filter feeding is obtaining nutrients from suspended particles in the water, so the actual food that they get is a little bit smaller and the nutrients are more directly accessible because you don't have to actually digest any of the prey because it's just small particles, versus ram feeding, which is digesting all the prey that comes to in your mouth. So if you have like a fish versus like a tiny particle, it's going to be a little bit easier to digest the tiny particle. And so diet is also another part of feeding behavior. It varies a lot. That's a really good question. So because you can't actually filter feed on land unless the particles are carried through the air, I'm sure there's some kind of like insect thing that can filter feed with like pollen that travels through the air, but most filter feeders are in the water because the water current is a really good source of food, and that's absent on land because the air doesn't really carry around food all that much. So the diet also varies a lot according to the animal. You can have herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, detrivores, and the more uncommon types of diets also include parasitism, which is basically either stealing someone else's food or taking food via living in another person's or another animal's body. So I haven't been talking about plants a lot because plants are generally all sessile, they don't move, and they all feed through photosynthesis, and their diet is pretty much just sunlight. So Rose asked the question, what are nectivores? So nectivores are, I don't think I've actually talked about this, but nectivores are probably animals that feed off of the nectar of a plant. So hummingbirds would probably be a nectivore. And so yes, every single slide does have a picture of that shark tooth, as someone asked. Yeah, I wanted consistency, so this is what it has. So another part of the mode of life and how animals live is its habitat. So it can have a terrestrial habitat, meaning it lives on land, marine, meaning it lives in the ocean, freshwater, meaning that it lives in like freshwater ponds or lakes. And so the different kinds of aspects of a habitat that animals consider when choosing where they live are temperature, humidity, and sunlight level. So a really interesting animal are snails and their class Gastropoda. Sorry. Okay, snails pretty much live everywhere. Like they can live in any habitat and it's really cool.
Wait, whales?
Snails. Whales can only live in the ocean.
Oh, I thought you said whale.
Okay. So moving on, we have life cycles. So life cycles are how an organism changes as it grows. So we're going to be talking first about how animals can reproduce. That's also another way we can classify an animal and the organism of a fossil. So there's asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction just means that the offspring that the animal actually produces are genetically identical to the parent because the offspring are technically clones. And so sexual reproduction is usually a combination of two parents and they result in genetic offspring that has a lot of variation, which is why you might not be the same as your sibling. Otherwise, you guys would look and think and have all the same aspects if it were asexual reproduction. So another pretty unique mode of reproduction that I'm going to talk about is parthenogenesis, and it's a form of asexual reproduction where the egg can form without being fertilized. And this is important because it's going to be in the Kahoot. So the most common forms of parthenogenesis occur in invertebrates like water fleas, aphids, which are animals that stick onto plants, and ants, wasps, bees, and it's more common in plants, and the plant version of parthenogenesis is called apomixis, and so that occurs in plants like dandelions. So we also go through many developmental phases, which we can also use to classify our fossils with. So first we have fertilization of an egg, and so this egg undergoes a process called cleavage, and it forms the blastula. And so the blastula goes through gastrulation and it forms germ layers. So diploblastic means that you have 2 germ layers, and triploblastic means that you have 3 germ layers. And okay, I'm just seeing some activity in the chat, so please remember to be nice and yes. Please pay attention so you can win the Kahoot. Okay, so after we have our different germ layers, which eventually form our skin, our organs, and our gut lining, you have gametogenesis, which means that the animals start producing gametes that can turn into different animals. And okay, I will post the slides later, so if you guys want to follow along, you guys can do that next week or just review after class. It's really big words, and I'm sorry for throwing them at you, but hopefully some of this at least makes sense. And then you have a larva stage, which means that the animal's not really mature yet. And then you actually get to the adult that can reproduce and form more animals. So next we have anatomy, which is how an animal looks. And okay, let's be nice, please. You can turn your camera on, you cannot turn your camera on. We all are accepting here. So yeah, so different aspects of anatomy include skeleton structure. So is the skeleton made out of cartilage? Is there no skeleton? And so another aspect would be breathing organs. So like gills, lungs, buck lungs. Anatomy is very interesting. And then we have how an animal digests. So with teeth, jaws, their bite force, predation. And then we also have excretion. So what kind of poop that animals produce. And then we have male and female differences. We have the size of the animal, the color of the animal, and we also have different kinds of symmetry. So bilateral symmetry means that an animal is the same on both halves. So humans are actually bilateral creatures. And then we have radial symmetry, which means that it's circular, so like a starfish. And starfish actually exhibit another kind of symmetry called pentaradial symmetry, which means that there are 5 feet and there's a center that they go off of. So going back to the tooth picture that I put at the left of every single slide. So I skipped over this for the last few slides because of time, but really quickly going through, the feeding behavior of the megalodon is that they are predators. They live in shallow water environments. Their mating behavior is that they make use of nursery areas to birth their young in. The females are actually larger. Wait, I can just share this. I realized. You guys, I'm learning tech here. Okay. So I'm gonna just put, oh no, that's the meeting code, my bad. I had a copy. Okay, this is basically a filled out template of the megalodon shark. So if you guys want to follow along, all in that document. They are very creepy. I agree with that. So etymology. Etymology is personally my favorite aspect of classifying fossils, and it's basically, why did we name a fossil the way we named it? What does the name actually mean? So the etymology of a megalodon would be big tooth. It's very anticlimactic.
Because it has a big tooth.
Okay. William, what did you say?
Because the megalodon has a big tooth.
This is very true. That's why we called it a big tooth. So now that this grueling lecture is over, it is Kahoot time. So I will now attempt to, okay.
Classic.
Thank you. I looked at it and I was like, do I pick classic or do I not pick classic? Okay, so everyone join as we close out our first lesson with, oh, we have monkey already. Wow. I have high expectations for you, monkey. I trust that you will do well in this Kahoot. Oh, we have another monkey. Okay. I have high expectations for both monkeys. Oh no, we have 3 monkeys. Okay. Oh, we have 4 monkeys. All right. This is a lot of monkeys, but hey, we have an Olivia Rodrigo lover. Okay. So I'm just gonna wait a few moments for everyone to get in because I want to make sure we have enough time. Oh, we have a monkey hunter, and the situation escalates. Wow.
There should be a super monkey.
Who wants to be the super monkey? Oh, oh my god, why we have so many monkeys. Oh no. Or no, not oh no. Monkeys are great. Okay. I will be starting the Kahoot in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, there we go. May the best monkey win. I believe in you guys. Nice, nice. Only 1 monkey on the leaderboard. Wow. Monkeys, where are you guys? Come on.
It's so laggy. Like my thing hasn't even loaded yet.
No, really?
Oh no. Okay, it just remained like yeah. Only
Oh.
one person got it.
Okay, this is very laggy. Okay, what if I close this? It's still laggy? Okay, I don't think it's laggy
Oh
anymore.
yeah, I hit the wrong one.
Oh no. No. Okay, we're getting more monkeys. I feel at ease. I believe in you guys. For real? Okay. So
I don't
this,
think any of us could tell what the heck that thing was.
okay, this is very fair. But basically that was an actual tube that something went through the soil and made. So, well, now you guys know what that is. What eon
I thought
are
it
we
was
living?
poop.
It does look very much like poop. This is very weird.
Okay, I forgot all the big names. I'm just trying to remember. Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
I
good
didn't
job,
even click a
guys.
single one.
Oh, the monkeys are getting obliterated one by one. Okay, Jonathan. Nice. Good job. Good job. Which of the following is not a domain? Very hard.
It's all a big word.
Nice. Okay. Protista is a kingdom in Eukarya. So remember that. The distribution. This hexagonaria and Potosky stone. Nice. I don't know why this one is multi-select. Oh, never mind. I do know why this one is multi-select. Ignore me. I forgot. Okay, I think this one is lag because not a lot of people are answering. So my apologies. What is the mode of life of class Bivalvia? Nice. And that is a brachiopod that we will look at more later because it's very cool.
That looks like a snail, but it's like on a stick attached to a wall.
That is exactly what it looks like. Good job. Okay. What class of animals occupy pretty much every habitat? Nice. If you guys remember the visco trend that was here a year ago, the shell necklaces are of class Gastropoda. This one I very briefly went over. Close. Monkey Mom is on a roll. Okay. I did not actually go over this one, so this is a 25% chance you get it right. Which one sounds the coolest? Oh, okay, nice. You guys picked the one that sounded the coolest. You guys looked at the dog? You should know this. But I don't expect all of you to look at the dog, so my apologies again for this one.
What is a bite force?
A bite force is basically how hard they can bite on an object, so how much force they actually exert on it. So members of phylum Chordata exhibit what kind of symmetry? We are members of phylum Chordata. Nice. So it just means we have two halves. What's the etymology of microspherofer? Another fossil we will look at later, just like all of the other fossils in this. See, this one was pretty hard. So butterfly shell is actually the common name of a microspherofer, and that's different from the etymology. What's the etymology of the Diplocalus, my favorite fossil? Double call. Yay, good job. So this is. Are you excited for next week? We're doing fossil formation and dating. Choose very wisely because there's definitely a wrong answer. Oh, we have monkeys. Nice. Wow. So let's look at our podium. Monkey hunter. Oh, Okay, so the monkeys did turn out supreme. So, good job, everyone. And I expect the Kahoot scores to go higher as we go on.